program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning. We said it together. Okay, we got the double hello. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and we've got a lot to talk about today. As usual.
Yes, we do. It's a never-ending story for the city of Fall River.
So let's let CJ kick it off. He was down there covering the mysterious non-posted TIF meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And he got a lot of information on it. He's already been posting.
Oh, yep, already been posting. I posted a letter on Facebook, and it's been very interesting to see what happens in Fall River when you're not paying attention, that's for sure. It's very interesting because this TIF, while I'm for bringing whatever we can to Fall River, I am definitely looking at the fact that it's very interesting to see this TIF. It's 100% tax incentive, which means we're going to abate their taxes for 4 years. Then it's a 75% incentive for 4 years. Or is that 3 years? 4 years. 50% for 3 and 25% for 4. And a lot of people say, well, maybe we should see that upside down. Maybe we should go somewhere else with that. So it makes it very interesting. But my problem is this. There are no guarantees for the people of Fall River. None whatsoever. And that kind of scares me a little bit because you have to say to yourself, why is it like that? They say 1,000 jobs with a target date of June 30th, 2019. Okay, 5 years down the road. But the job target does not say that the people of Fall River are going to get them. It just says 1,000 jobs. What's to prevent Amazon to bring in 500 or 600 people from their offices across the country and put them in the Fall River warehouse? So I would like to see in that TIF a portion of the jobs, a percentage of them, 20, 30, 40, more something along the lines of at least 50% of those jobs, 500 jobs, be guaranteed to Fall River residents. I would also like to see the fact that they use local contractors and businesses to build this warehouse and to supply material, because it doesn't say that they're requiring that. It says that the city will encourage Amazon to use local contractors and local business. Big deal. I can encourage you to eat chocolate brownies. Doesn't mean you're going to eat them, especially if you're allergic to them. So, you have to ask yourself, what are you talking about? And why are you selling the city so cheap?
Yeah, I tend to agree. And obviously, this city doesn't have a lot of options. So anything we bring in is going to be better than what we've got. We don't really have any kind of economic base that's structured on any major employer. And yeah, we have to try to get them in, but we have to look at the balance of what we're getting and how much we're giving up. And as you said, I think right out of the gate, when we talk about just the construction on the site, we're going to encourage them to use Fall River contractors and Fall River people. To me, that's just not acceptable. I mean, we're giving them a ton of tax breaks and incentives on real and personal property. We're giving them a lot of years where they're saving a lot of money. And as you said, I think most of their supervisory people will be coming from other areas and who have experience. And normally, when they bring something of that magnitude in, they're bringing in the management core from another area that already has experience. So okay, that's a given. So we've got the regular warehouse jobs and things like that, and maybe low level management positions that may be available, but we have to build it first, and that's going to be a very large undertaking. I don't know if they put a figure. Did they put a figure on that yet? On on the construction phase of that project, CJ?
Yes, they did. According to Ken Fiola, they're going to be making a $200 million investment in this project. It's a pad-ready site, and they have 91 acres that they're buying, and the city has assessed that at $5 million. Now, that will be the base tax rate that Amazon will have to pay throughout the TIF, which equates to $96,000 a year for the city of Fall River. So it's very interesting to see that. And that $200 million, though, includes the $5.3 million for the land, and then the construction of a building. And they designed, they showed us a couple of nice pictures of the land, and they're saying that it's going to be a glass front building, probably more solid in the back, with signage on it representing Amazon, which we expect. But you have to ask yourself, are you really going to sell us short? And I'm not, as I said, I'm not against this project. I'm just against giving away, the whole house and getting nothing in return. When you're going to be building a 1 million square foot warehouse, you have to ask yourself, okay, how many jobs could that create just in construction? Electricians, plumbers, and another problem I had, again, was this. This is the TIF, okay? And you'll notice it says draft on it. And very interestingly enough, and we had a conversation with a member of the TIF board today. It says to refer to Appendix A and Appendix B, blah, 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 blah. This is redacted because of Exhibit A, nothing there. Exhibit B, nothing there. Now, maybe they're standard forms. I believe Exhibit A is the resolution presented before this, that's going to be presented before the City Council on a special meeting that they want to have on Thursday, which they're shoving that down our throat because Freetown doesn't meet until the 19th. So why couldn't this be held on the 18th at the regular City Council meeting? Because they don't want to have any other conversation in it, most likely. And also, you have to ask yourself, what are we getting? What are we getting? Because really, they're saying 1,000 jobs, but there's no guarantee that it's Fall River jobs.
Well, CJ, they did tell you we're getting encouragement. We're encouraged.
Oh, yeah, we're encouraged.
We're encouraged. But the fact is, I know the mayor was very friendly with Buddy Cianci, and, Buddy did not win re-election as mayor of Providence. He wanted to take that job again. And I know he was good friends, but I know one thing, when Buddy was mayor, he did some things that weren't exactly legal, but one of the positive things he did when he began to rebuild Providence was that he ensured that when anybody did anything in Providence, they employed Providence people. I know that firsthand because the former president of the Firefighters Association in Providence was an acquaintance of mine, and he told me that he was very, very judicious about making sure that the people in Providence, the unions and the companies in Providence were given a piece of the pie. $200 million is a big number, even in today's day and age. I mean, we're not talking about the 99-cent menu here. We're talking about the prime steakhouse menu at Peter Luger's in over in Brooklyn, and so I really don't. I agree. We need this. But we give away too much, far too much. I mean, we're already giving them cheap labor. I mean, I guess we're like a suburb of Beijing because they're saying that the salaries are going to be set at like $35,000 for the warehouse work, yet the one that they looked upon at Stoughton, which was fundamentally the same type of operation, they were getting $10,000 more or $15,000 more than Fall River, and a warehouse is a warehouse. So immediately, they've already diminished the worth of the workers in Fall River. Now, maybe that's the reason that many years ago, people won't remember this, some maybe, but when we actually were talking about a casino up in the industrial park, and all the people in the industrial park came down to speak out against the casino, there were questions on it, and they said, well, it won't bring jobs that will pay what they say they're going to pay. And a city councilor at the time asked the employer that had a business in the industrial park, well, what do you pay? And his answer to that was very telling. He said, well, that's not relevant. But it was relevant, because the reality was he was going to pay less than the casinos. And they were opposed to a casino coming in because it would actually raise the prevailing wage in Fall River. Because he knew that if a casino came to Fall River, that all the people that worked in his plant would all leave to go work at a casino for more money and better benefits.
But that's the problem, Chip. That's truly the problem. Sorry for interrupting you, but
go ahead.
That's truly the problem, because on this TIF board was the mayor, was Ken Fiola, was Kathy Ann Viveris, was a gentleman by the name of Matt Marcioni. I believe it's Frank. He's the president of the Fall River Office of Economic Destruction. You had Jazel Correa, you had Mike Mioza, and you had Joe Camara. And interestingly about this was, when they talked about the wage, it was like, oh, it's $35,000 a year. That's going to bring $35 million into Fall River. No, it's not. Not unless you have a guarantee of the number of jobs. Because that money will go to pay restaurants. That money will go to be spent in Fall River. Where? At Walmart, where you gave them another huge TIF to come into Fall River? I mean, these are companies we're bringing in, and yes, they're bringing in some jobs, but they're bringing in subpar jobs. And my question to the mayor, to the city administrator, and to Kenny, let's screw this up, Fiola, and I'm sorry, that's my opinion, is, are Fall River people so worthless that you're going to sell them out for $10,000 cheaper than 20 miles up the road? Are we not worth that $10,000? Or is it just that you want to be sure that you get this in place so that you look good? Because I'm going to tell you now, you're not going to look good when the people of Fall River are sitting there. And when you look at Amazon's history, back in 1999, they opened one of these in Georgia. And 2 years after they opened it, they closed it. So there's nothing to say that they're going to be here for the 15 years. And you know what the answer to that type of statement or question was from Ken Fiola? Well, then they'll have to pay us the full amount of taxes for the 2 years. Doesn't that make perfect sense?
Well, it makes perfect sense if you don't care about the long-term impact, and that's one of the problems. We have this short-term and short-sightedness from our Office of Economic Destruction. As long as we promise these jobs and bring these jobs in initially, well, if we lose them down the road, who cares? We can get the publicity about bringing the jobs in. Well, as we said on a previous show, to me, I even have to question whether it's worth bringing in jobs and having people really believe that they now have a future and a job that they're going to keep, and then have the rug pulled out from under them, as happened in with so many of the TIFs that we gave out. And we're selling, again, I believe that we're selling the city short. We're giving them a deal on the taxes. We're giving them a deal on the wages. So you mean to tell me that we couldn't negotiate, that we're going to at least get some guarantees to put our people to work? And nobody cares. I think it's about press. I think it's about, hey, the mayor's running in a recall election, and he's going to say, look what I did. Forget about all the other 4, almost 5 years of me running this city into a financial well. Let's forget about it. Amazon, the panacea to everything. It's going to be a PR thing, not going to be about really helping Fall River. There are no guarantees that people in Fall River are going to be helped. But by the time we realized that Danny Rigo's up at the site yelling because they're all Rhode Island contractors, or the people in Fall River are complaining because, you know, they got 1,000 people hired there and there's only 200 from Fall River. Well, the election will be over and they'll go, oh, well, they are gonna pay taxes anyway, at least a little. And I just don't think that's good business. I don't think that's in the best interest of the city of Fall River. And that's one of the fundamental reasons that we have problems in this city. We don't look for sustainable jobs. Sustainable, that's the key. You
Yeah,
know?
and Chip, you know, the thing that gets me is this is being located in the biopark or the life sciences park. And this is, you know, 91 acres of land. This is a lot of land here, okay? 30
Is that
of it-
even legal? I don't want to interrupt you, but I mean, is a warehouse that has potentially, you know, not environmentally friendly things in it, is that even a proper usage in that area?
Well, from what I understand, the park was basically split 50-50 for biopark and life sciences, and the other part for commercial purposes. And
All right.
but the thing is this, you know, 30 acres of this land is in Freetown, so Freetown has to agree to the same TIF. And the question was asked, what about the life sciences section? And the answer provided from Ken Fiola was, we're going to have to revisit that and see if that's something we can do, because with the attraction of Amazon, other companies are going to obviously want to come here. And they were talking about how much land was available and whatnot, but it's just too iffy, and it really makes me want to think a little bit. But I think we need the jobs, and I think we need the businesses, but we don't have to give away the house to get it, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, as I said, you know, we need them, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have this, but I think we should have got a little bit more. We gave them, you know, a lot. You know, we gave them tremendous tax incentives. We gave them, you know, even the wages they're going to pay. They're saving, let's say for the sake of argument, where, you know, we get 1,000 jobs from Fall River. Let's look at the absolute best case scenario. They hire 1,000 people from Fall River, which you and I know both really won't happen. Most of these companies have, you know, Corey checks for their employees and random drug testing for their employees, and some of them have minimum requirements for education for
Right.
certain positions.
Correct.
Which unfortunately will eliminate some people. But let's say we can find 1,000 people. They're paying $10,000 less than they were paying in Stoughton. So if you look at that, look at the money they're saving there.
Exactly.
I mean,
$10 million.
$10 million in salaries, and they're getting tax breaks. So,
Right.
I mean, if you look at it, they're almost realizing half the cost. When you factor in all the tax incentives, everything in, they're saving, it's saying it's a $200,000 investment, but in reality, it's only a $100,000 investment, because when you figure in all the breaks they're getting, they're building this thing for peanuts. So you're telling me that we couldn't at least have something to say, you will have at least 50% of the people doing the work on site and construction having Fall River, Greater Fall River area companies, when available, and you will guarantee us at least X amount of workers? And I mean, would that be, I mean, I'll tell you what, I wish, if that's the way Kenny negotiates, I wish I would have had him across the table when I had to negotiate contracts
Yeah,
against the city.
Well, interestingly enough, you know, Kenny said we were over here and they were over there, and we just had to keep whittling it down until we came together here. Well, if that's where you came together here, to me it seems like it came together somewhere else. But enough of that for right now. Let's talk about the recent fire here in Fall River, which has, I guess, now been declared an arson. 2 houses got involved on Washington Street. Started in one and I guess leapt over to the other, and every piece of fire apparatus was called out to handle this fire. And we even had reports that police officers were going in the building to help people get out. And we had to call as far away as Taunton for backup. for coverage, mutual support. And this is what our tremendous fire department budget, created by the infamous administration and former city administrator Sean Kadim, has done. They've put us in a hellhole. I mean, and you being a former district chief, you know better than I would how something like this could happen. And we don't have a lot of time, so.
Yeah, we got a few minutes, but no, you're right. I mean, obviously, we've said it time and time again. You can't have a fire department that's going to be totally committed with every piece of apparatus and with a working residential fire. I mean, it just means you don't have adequate protection. We just don't have it. Look, it was, it wasn't a mill. It wasn't a high hazard occupancy. It was what we call a routine working fire. And they do have a tendency in tight neighborhoods to spread. Now, the little fire tactics lesson here for everybody out there. It's, the adage is locate the fire, which is normally not too difficult when it's burning that well, and then confine and extinguish. So the first thing is to confine the fire to the building or area of origin, to stop it from spreading to other. So it already had begun to spread. Now, once it's begun to spread to one or two other buildings, CJ is giving me although it's not showing on my screen, but he's giving me the flames here. But
I had to have a little levity.
As I said on numerous occasions, firefighting is a labor-intensive occupation. It's not something you can use equipment for. It takes manpower to lay lines, to place ladders, to do the work. So when a fire has begun to move from one building to another, or from one building to two buildings, you need enough men to, number one, stop it from propagating by putting up a water curtain, and then you have to send men into the other buildings that the fire has begun to impinge on, to make sure that it doesn't get into the bays and begin to involve the house any further than when you got there. That's the key. The key is but that's very, very labor intensive. So they're gonna have to call, multiple crews. And the fact is, the crews, number one, are undersized. They're not according to the 1710 standard. We have 3-man crews. We should have 4, and actually, in most of these high hazard areas in the 3 decades, we should have 5 by the standard. So we have fewer men and fewer trucks, and that's the recipe for disaster. The fact is that we had the entire Fall River Fire Department at basically a working house fire that had begun to extend. What are we going to do if a mill goes up? What would we do if we had another working house fire? We're in trouble. And they will tell you, we've got Taunton, we've got Tiverton, we've got Somerset covering. It's not the same. The fact is, they're not familiar with our city. They also don't work together. Firefighting is like a military operation. You have standard operating procedures. Crews work together. They know how to work with each other because of the department. It has standardized procedures. And those other departments may work completely differently. Now we have a bunch of, a patchwork, so to speak, of people working. Not that they don't know what to do, but there are different ways to do the same function, and it depends on your department's SOPs and what's going to happen is there can be more confusion because these people are from different cities, different towns. They even have some from Tiverton. They need adapters because the threads on their couplings don't match Massachusetts couplings. So the fact is that there are a lot of things, but the bottom line is, again, we have made public safety, the lives and property of the people of Fall River, secondary to pay raises for people and assistance, and our tax dollars are being misappropriated, when years ago, our tax dollars paid for firefighters, for police officers. That's what it is, essential services. We've said it, CJ, time and time again. This is why we have to change this government, because there seems to be a total disregard for the public safety, and regardless of what he says, you know, we can't grant our way out of this. And when they get the grant and try to say they're gonna supplement the overtime budget, that grant will expire just like the SAFER grant expired. And the reality is, the only way to cure this problem is to make sure that our money is spent on necessities.
Well, how about this one? They announced that they're applying for another SAFER grant.
Well, there you go. You know, this is their answer to everything: bonding and grants. And it's like, let's let somebody else pay our bills. Well, guess what? You're a property owner. I'm a property owner, and I'm going to say it for probably the 12th millionth time. I don't pay my taxes for your neighborhood liaison or his assistant.
I agree.
I pay my taxes to have my trash picked up, and I paid 3 different times now, but to have my trash picked up, to have police officers and firefighters and an educational system in this community. That's where my tax dollars should go. You want to get a grant for your neighborhood liaison. Get a grant for the treasurer. Get a grant for all your consultants that you said we had to get a new treasurer. Get grants for those people. And then when they expire, they can expire.
Exactly.
But the fact is, we can't sacrifice the safety of this people. And I don't care what you're going to do when you're running on your recall, Will. You have abandoned the safety of this city by depending on somebody else to pay for what we pay our taxes for. And that's disgraceful.
And you know, you're absolutely right. And in our last minute or so, I put together a little paper, which I'm hoping the Herald News will publish, about the TIF. And you know, maybe they will, maybe they won't. I'm not exactly sure. I was going to read it here tonight, but you know, I think that maybe people should start looking for it in the Herald News. I'm sure they'll publish it. I mean, given all of this, what do you think?
No transparency. They did not post that meeting either, did they, CJ?
Not that I know of. I didn't see it anywhere. I called the city clerk's office. She said that, you know, it was not on the city website because they are having a problem with departments posting their meetings. She said it was posted downstairs on the board. I went outside the building. I tried to look at that board. I can't read it. And the only message we heard about it publicly was from the mayor on WSAR when he turned around and said, oh, we're planning a TIF board meeting sometime next week. I think that, you know, we're getting the shaft there, so.
More transparency in government.
Of course. But with that, we're kind of at the end of our show, and I want to thank everyone for watching. Please keep watching, and we're going to bring you more information on Amazon, on the fire department, and anything else as it comes up here on Spindle City Straight Talk. Thanks for watching. Chip?
December 16th, vote.
Oh, definitely. And remember, next Friday, there is a comedy show at the Elks at 7 p.m. Thank you. Have a great day.